President Trump and the Republicans charging ahead with their health care overhaul push after yesterday's big victory in the House. Their comeback from an initial failure back in March is being celebrated by fellow Republicans.
Here's what I really like. They hit a wall. They backed up. They tried a second time, and they knew they were going to hit the wall, so they didn't take the vote. They kept working. They kept talking. Trump kept talking to people as late as yesterday, individually, developing amendments, thinking things through. The art of the deal, come to Washington, D.C. The president would never back off. He would never give up.
And House Republican leaders have not been shy with their praise of President Trump and his role particularly in helping get the bill over the finish line.
Mr. President, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your leadership. I want to thank the Vice President. You know, I've only been through a few presidents, but I've never seen someone so hands-on. Walk into my office yesterday morning, they say the president's calling again. I know my members well. The president gives me a list of who he thinks I would be best to talk to on the list. And he was right. And Mr. President, they all voted for the bill.
Kelly and Conway, no doubt the deal was done, and so much on the campaign trail. Many of us heard about this amazing business acumen of President Donald Trump, or then candidate Trump. And are we seeing what that really looks like now in a political way?
Yes, we are. And I think health care is just the most recent example of that. You've seen the incredible jobs numbers just out today. People like the Trump economy. They like the prospect of meaningful tax reform. He promised at the end of his Rose Garden ceremony yesterday, Ebony, that we would have the largest tax cut in U.S. history, which is also tax relief, middle-class tax relief. Also, small business owners will have a 15% tax bracket, which is just huge. I mean, it's unheard of. It's unheard of usually, and all the deductions will be gone except for charitable deductions and home mortgage interest, because many of those deductions usually benefit the special interest. But on health care, you really saw the president and the vice president's leadership. They were working the phones. They were hosting meetings. I was there on Wednesday when he welcomed in Congressman Billy Long from Missouri, Congressman Fred Upton of Michigan, both of whom had come out the day before publicly and said they could not vote yes, even though they had previously been maybes or yeses. And he had them to the White House and very politely, very courteously asked them their concerns, what might get them to yes, negotiated. There's something else we saw on full display that I don't think people know enough about President Trump. He's very patient. And a good deal maker is a patient person who waits for the best possible outcome that benefits people. He didn't come out yesterday and claim victory for the Republican Party. He claimed victory for the American people. And if you contrast that to the way the Democrats immediately went to the political repercussions of everything, that's not the way we're thinking. This is not a campaign. This is a president and vice president who are working to improve the lives of people. 40% increase in premiums overall. For some people, 100% premium increase. In states like Iowa, just this week, you see Aetna and Medica insurers pulling out of the exchanges. They say we simply cannot afford it. Obamacare was unaffordable and unsustainable long-term for people, and help is on the way.
All right, so T, we know that this has got still a long way to go, but it has successfully cleared one chamber. What, if anything, would you like to see worked on as it evolves, as it gets to the Senate?
One of the reasons why I voted for Mr. Trump was because I was looking at the land of the tape where it was going to be, the GOP was in the House, it was in the Senate, so we're going to get things done. And I haven't seen a lot of that. And the fact that he had to go back, and he was making deals, but it would have been special for me if they were making deals with Democrats crossing over.
Wait. You haven't seen a lot of that? Hold on. Did you say you haven't seen
They're welcome.
This is Atlanta Falcons. This is the halftime celebration.
Just throw something at
when
you
the bill's a law, then I'll throw my hat in the air.
There are 28 bills that this president has signed in 107 days or 106 days or so. Unemployment's at its lowest level in 10 years. You can credit Obama if you want.
No, it's not about Obama.
Hourly wages are up. The stock market made record highs today, again today.
And where's that going to be at?
Here's what matters to Americans. When wages go up, wages went up 2.5% versus a year ago. Today that was announced. You know why that matters? Because 57% of Americans don't have enough money in their bank account to pay for an emergency $500 tire replacement, let alone not living from month to month or from check to check. This president is getting a lot done, and it's trickling down. But you don't hear that on mainstream media. On the street, you hear, oh, yeah, he's tweeting, or, oh, yeah, did you hear what he said last night?
I'm not talking about any of that. I'm just saying it's not on the law yet. Obamacare's still here. So until the Senate gets it done.
It took 17 months to put Obamacare in.
It is
I
a
think
process.
that's better, though.
That's why it's not a good time right now to be high-fiving.
I think
now would be like, we got step 1 down, we're going to roll up our sleeves and get some more work done. That's what I wanted to hear. I didn't need a party.
I would love to have Democrats say respectfully. The president even said it yesterday. Kevin McCarthy, the majority leader, came out and said, when President Trump first contacted me, Kevin McCarthy, about health care, he said, don't do something that's good for the Republican Party. Do something that's good for the American people. And he did not claim victory for the Republican Party yesterday. We would love to have Democrats support us. Where are they? I have 2 questions for the Democrats. Who exactly is the leader of your party? I'm totally confused. Is it Hillary Clinton who won't go away?
We have no idea.
Is it Barack Obama? Is it Bernie Sanders? Is it Tom Perez? And second question is, what is the Democrats' message? Do they think Obamacare works? Can they really look people in the eye?
I think that we know that they don't, Kellyanne, from what Bill Clinton said on the campaign trail, that, you know, the premiums are ridiculous. I think we do know that. But I think you raise a good point, and you raise a good point about the cooperation, because Obamacare, one of the big criticisms, rightfully so, was that it was rammed down in a single partisan way. And I think a lot of people are hoping that we as America have learned the lessons from what that feels and looks like, and they're hoping that we see something different from this administration.
I agree with Tyrus, though. We don't know enough about it yet. I'm hoping to see better things happen in the Senate. I'm hoping to see maybe a little less involvement. But right now, in terms of, you can call it him being patient, I think it's not very patient to push something through before we have the CBO take a look at it, before we know how something is going to impact the American people. I obviously hope that it has a good impact on the American people. And we know that
hang that on Paul Ryan, though. You don't hang that on the White House.
Sure, and I absolutely do.
The way legislation works is the House puts the deal together, the legislation together, and they say, hey, Mr. President, we have this, and the American people like it, and we'll get votes for this. Unfortunately, Paul Ryan dropped the ball the first round, and Donald Trump had to get out there and knock on doors, shake hands, and say, listen, we're going to make this right for Americans, and he got them to jump on board on this, and you're right. Kat, it's going to go to the Senate.
It's a process.
And speaking of the Senate, that's actually a perfect segue, E. Last night, President Trump acknowledged that potential changes need to come for this Republican health care plan in the Senate.
It could change a little bit, could get maybe even better. It's a very good bill right now. The premiums are going to come down very substantially. The deductibles are going to come down. It's going to be fantastic health care. Right now, Obamacare is failing. So when you compare something to Obamacare, Obamacare is no longer living. And we have something that's going to be, I think, one of the best anywhere in the world, and we look forward to it.
So, Kat, you keep correctly acknowledging that we don't really know what's in it. We know what President Trump wants the outcome to be. We know what we want it to be. We know how we want it improved upon what we currently have. But realistically, what can we really expect?
We don't know what to expect. And, of course, it's a complicated thing, and this could be, and I hope it will be, something that's very different after it comes through the Senate. But it's so early to be celebrating because, I mean, Republicans have been talking about health care for a very long time, and it took so long, and it was so complicated, and it seemed that once they got the chance, it looked like they didn't know what to do, and then they had one chance and it didn't pass, and then they passed it through the House, and who knows what will happen in the Senate. But
I know what's in it. I read it, and everybody else can read it. It's publicly posted. It's not the 2,700-page monstrosity that Nancy Pelosi apparently did not read before they passed it. She said you've got to pass it to read it. We also were told you can keep your plan, you can keep your doctor. That was a big fat lie. So I don't think anybody, Kat, is nostalgic for
I'm certainly not.
For what Obamacare has wrought. The 20 million people just last year who opted out of Obamacare altogether, 6.5 million of whom opted to pay the penalty.
I was one of them, Kellyanne.
That's right. There you go.
And I talk about that all the time. And so, but a chief criticism, though, Kellyanne, to be fair, is that for 7 years, Republicans have talked about their issues with health care and Obamacare.
And they won a lot of seats because of it.
Right, fine. Absolutely.
Including the White House.
Lost a lot of seats. But here's the question. 7 years later, full control, basically.
That's how they passed it yesterday. And they will pass it in the Senate.
But we're still talking about, are we going to have a cross-state line coverage? I mean, there's certain things that I think some of us that really do want premiums to come down require. And, E, you talk about this often. I think some of us really feel like that's the way to go.
This is very important that the Senate does get their hands on it. And the cross-state lines thing was supposed to be phase 2, and hopefully it will be. I mean, I think a lot of fiscal conservatives want to see that so we can introduce competition into the health care and health insurance system to bring prices down. But don't forget why the I'll let them talk for, but what this did, the savings from this new health care system is going to be applied to the tax reform plan, which will be massive for every single American. Everyone
You buy that,
right
Pete?
now.
Does that make you feel better about it?
This is not Donald Trump's fault. And I agree with Eric on this point. The Republicans had 7 years. When Donald Trump came into office, he said, what do you guys want to do first? They said, we want to get rid of Obamacare. He said, cool, what do you got? And they came to the table with nothing. And then he had to get together and put a plan. So this is my issue with the Senate and the House, is that they talked a good game, and they're not getting, and they're bickering, and they're not getting their stuff done that they're supposed to be doing. Donald Trump should have came in and be like, where's the plan, boys? Here it is, boss.
On a silver
Sounds
platter.
good. And we should have been
They'll be the first to tell you that, right? I mean, they had 7 years to get this thing together, and they presented, Paul Ryan and leadership presented something
Well, but I like to focus on yesterday and moving forward, because this is a great success. They did come together and get something that made sense. The health savings accounts are in there. You can almost double your contribution. We're going to have these associated pools where the folks like plumbers, hairdressers who don't get employer-sponsored coverage like most of us do and aren't on government-run coverage like veterans benefits or Medicaid, Medicare, they'll be able to pool together. And the extra $8 billion that helps these folks with pre-existing conditions who happen to live in a state where a governor decides to waive out, decides to opt out.
Very nervous about that.
That helped bring along a lot of the fence sitters, Ebony, because they were concerned about that, and the president met those concerns. But this is make no mistake, this is a collaborative effort. Health care legislation cannot come from the Oval Office alone, and the House can't pass something without the president and the vice president's imprimatur really being on that and working the phones and working the meetings. They feel very good. I think something else we learned yesterday is that this government can function. The House, the Senate, and the White House together watch. And I think the Democrats are going to be left out because they refuse to come on board. You know, George W. Bush, in June of 2001, just 5 short months into his first term, he passed meaningful tax reform with 10 or 12 Democratic senators for it. We've gotten no indication there'll be a single senator who's interested in our tax reform plan. That's too bad.